All right. Hey guys, hey everybody. Thank you for making it to the SPX6900 Sunday Spaces number 7. How's everybody doing? Hope everybody's doing well. Hype, are you connected?
Yes.
All right, excellent, excellent. We have some very interesting topics to discuss today, especially around the 1 hour mark. Is that right, Hype?
I think so. Thereabouts.
Awesome, awesome. It's been a really great week. It's good to see the continued reinvigoration of the Aeon's NFT collection. I think it's awesome to see more and more people wearing the NFT. Even I took quite some time, 2 years to be precise, to understand and appreciate their full power. But even looking back at when I was, even looking back at summer 2024, when I was starting to get deeper and deeper into the SPX rabbit hole, one of the things that did it for me, and I think I said it on the previous space, is the fact that you saw 5 or 6 people under your posts all wearing the same NFT, right? And it really made you interested. Like, what is it about this mission? What is it about this coin that has triggered so many people under my post to be kind of rocking the same NFT, right? Essentially rocking the same fashion. And it's good to see over the past week, even more people have begun wearing the NFT. I think that number will continue. Right now, I believe it's 1,170. So 1170 individual owners of the NFT. I think it would be good to try to get this number up to 1,500 or 1,600 as a community, because that's the number, that's the proportion, closer to 50%, which you see for larger and more established NFT collections like Milady, like Bored Apes, like a bunch of other collections. Essentially, what this means is fundamentally, for example, with Milady, there is 10,000 NFTs, right? And there are roughly 5,000 owners, which actually means that the average holder has 2 collections. Right? Essentially, the average holder has 2 NFTs. And I think that's much healthier than the average holder having 3 or 4, which is technically the case with SPX right now. Effectively, there's a bunch of people with 1 or 2, but there are also people with like 30, 40, in some cases even 60 NFTs. And I do not believe that they should be used so much as a speculative vehicle. I believe that they should be considered almost like a medal or a mark of honor, or almost like for lack of a better comparison, almost like a luxury watch from within the context of our community, right? And again, for the people that own multiple of them, dozens of them, I strongly recommend either some combination of giveaways, some combination of using them as prizes for various competitions that you can launch, and also even listing them. I have had a long debate with a couple of Aeons over the past week. Andy has suggested some good ideas as well. I think, and by the way, Hype, I would like to hear your opinion about this as well. But I'm coming around to the idea that people should list their Aeons, especially if you have more than one, for 69 ETH, right? Andy has made a really good point that there's essentially 2 camps here, right? One camp says that you should hoard them, regardless of how many you own, whether it's 1, 2, or 10. You should essentially get them out of the circulation, and then that way there will be a scarcity, there will be few of them listed, and that way they will appear to be desirable, because despite there being 3,000 of them, only 70 or 80 or whatever, 50 are going to be available for sale, right? This is actually the philosophy that I used to hold, right? But Andy, I had long conversation in DMs with him. He said that life of an asset, whether it's a coin or an NFT, comes from the volume, comes from the transactions, comes from activity, comes from circulation. All of this essentially creates a log of events. It creates essentially it creates media, it creates data, it establishes essentially Aeons being tethered to a higher price. So actually, upon deeper meditation on the topic, I'm coming around to the idea that I'm slowly coming around to the idea that we should list our NFTs for high numbers. And I think it should be somewhere between 50 and 100 ETH. Ultimately, even if the majority of Aeons for the foreseeable future are going to be bought at these 1 to 2 ETH levels, eventually, especially as the coin gets better and more people hear about this, especially like wealthier people, there will come a time, mark my words, where you will see true organic purchases of Aeon NFTs above 50 ETH, right? I've said this in the first half of, I've said this in the second half of 2024, and I believe it will come to be true. But essentially, I believe it's better to list your NFTs at 50 ETH, 69 ETH, 100 ETH, in that range, because eventually there will be trading done for those prices, and it will truly, effectively cause the NFT prices to skyrocket overnight, right? And the more transactions that we will see, essentially, the more money changing hands we will see, granted that it's organic, between 50 and 69 ETH, the more legitimized the price of an Aeon will be at those levels, right? So I think, on one hand, we want as many people, especially hardworking Aeons, to be able to own one. At the same time, if you have an excess of them, right, and this is doubly the case if you have more than one, your excess Aeons should be placed 50, 69, or 100 ETH. That's what I believe. That's what Undy believes. That's what a bunch of Undy's friends believe. And I do believe that he has a point when he says this. Hi, what do you think about this?
I don't know. I'm a little bit indifferent about the listing them for super high prices. It is funny and it is cool. I do believe Aeons will trade at those levels at some point.
Can I interject?
Yeah, do it.
Okay,
Please.
so my thought on this is just we have a whole other asset through which we can flip the stock market. So I don't understand why, like, I understand what you're saying, Murad, but at the end of the day, like, the target to me is 69 trillion for both SPX and also the NFT collection. That's my personal view on it.
I'd like to interject as well.
Go ahead.
Hello. First, I want to say, Spacey, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I have the cute little man in my arms right now. So
that's so awesome.
If you hear cooing, it's not me.
Awesome. I would say that listing it for whatever price is the exact same thing as delisting it, in my view.
I agree with that.
So we could do both
technically,
these things.
yeah, I agree with that. I think technically, talking about if you delist them, there's like 0% chance that they can be purchased. While if you list them, you still give a small percentage optionality of those large purchases essentially converting into more attention, more media, and more sort of celebrations within the community.
And okay, I also want to say I haven't thought about this a lot. I would say that if we're assuming that they're in benevolent Aeon hands, then they couldn't be. Maybe I'm completely off by this, but maybe they could not be purchased by somebody who's super wealthy that wants to just hoard them.
Yeah, there's a bit with that, like, on the floor, because like listing them for like exuberant amounts of ETH is good, but yeah, people want to sell them because they think they have too many. They can just get scooped up by traders and like NFT scalpers and shit, and then those people are the ones that just take all of the. They just take everyone else's money out of the community. That's the only thing I'd be hesitant with like distributing through selling them, as opposed to just reaching out to individual people.
I think one other thing I wanted to discuss, and I would love to get Hype and Spacey your thoughts about this, is community goals, right? Should we have some sort of community goals, whether they are short term, medium term, or long term. Obviously, besides flipping the stock market, some kind of intermediate goals that we can all rally around and focus on for like the foreseeable weeks, months. There's kind of generally pros and cons about this, right? The cons is that there's a famous saying kind of in the management/corporate world, which is like whatever you start measuring kind of fails to be the right metric. But at the same time, I think it's good to have whatever sort of goals you have in life. Usually breaking them down into smaller chunks helps with motivation, persistence, and sort of continued energy. What do you guys think about this?
Spacey, help.
I feel like naturally right now we're kind of starting to create at least short-term goals, in the sense of like people are starting to organize like regional chapters or meetups that happen regularly. So I think it's a positive as long as it doesn't become too much of a centralized thing. Like I don't think it should be like, okay, someone who has deemed themselves to be like more of an authority than the next person, coming in and being like, okay, short term we need to do the X, Y, and Z, long term whatever. Like as long as it's something that like consensus has already driven. Like I think the regional meetups consensus has driven that because we have like Seb doing it in the UK, and we have like like people doing it now, like Ilya, I think is doing Austin, Texas and whatnot. So I think that naturally kind of arose, and it's like recognizing that's sick. Sorry. Recognizing what naturally like came up, that was sort of a consensus decision on this needs to be a short-term like priority. And then like platforming those short-term priorities that people in different localizations have sort of agreed upon, and then coordinating around them. So I think like we're doing that for the regional stuff, which is really good. And I'm curious to hear like Murad, some of your thoughts about short-term stuff. Like, what does that look like for you? Because I think I can answer better if I have a better sense of like what you're thinking.
Yeah, no, for sure. You made a really great point about regional chapters, and that's something that I wanted to give a shout out to everybody that has been involved in that over the past several weeks. Like in the first 2 months of this summer, there has been a huge drive into establishing these regional chapters in some of the biggest cities in the world. We have one in London. We have one starting up in Austin, Barcelona, Melbourne, Milan, NYC, and there's more coming up. Almost every week, I see a new one. So that's absolutely amazing. Also, shout out to Aeon Reborn, who is launching the Milan regional chapter as well. That's going to be super amazing. And it's like all these cities are unironically some of they're effectively kind of like some of the most important cities slash financial capitals of each of these respective regions. So it's turning up to be very fortunate in that regard. One more thing I wanted to talk about is, and by the way, more on the regional chapters. In the next month or two, there will also be chapters launching in LA, Amsterdam, and New York. Right, and this is on top of the Austin, Miami, Italy, and Barcelona that we already have happening. Hype. We're going to be discussing some of the more interesting and pertinent things on the 1 hour mark, right? But would you like to talk a little bit more about this idea about having a one pager, which is having a one pager? No,
Jezel.
All right, I muted Jizzle for now. So we have this idea, and I believe this is very, very important, to have a one pager, which is, I don't want to call it a constitution. I don't want to call it a manifesto either. We can call it one of these two things, but essentially the way I see it is, a lot of the people have mentioned to me, when you start to talk about SPX, there's like a whole variety of ways to pitch it, right? And I think the situation is that everybody's pitching it somewhat differently. And also, a very famous thing that people ask others to do is just go on Twitter, write SPX6900, scroll for 15, 20 minutes, and you will get the idea, right? And all of this is cool and all of this is fine. But I do think our community would greatly benefit from, other than the commandments that we have, I think it would be great if we had the secondary document, which essentially, even before we get into the whole constitution and manifesto kind of discussion or nomenclature hype, essentially, it would be great to have one pager, which just, you can show this one pager to somebody who has absolutely no idea about meme coins. Maybe they don't even know anything about, these movement coins, crypto, none of that, right? And just by reading this one page, they would absolutely understand everything, right? Now, we can't have something like a one-page thesis separately from a one-page constitution, but I think it would be great if we had essentially a one-pager that just fulfills all of the above, right? And it clearly shows the unified mission. It clearly describes everything that is the most important about this thing. And instead of kind of breaking down into this like multi-page and long form text, in one compact page, it would clearly explain absolutely everything, right? And I do think that us as a community, we need to come together and we need to produce such a document, because one big thing which immediately, like in the first hour that I heard about SPX, the reason why I loved it the most is because there is a mission, right? There is a mission. So it's a mission coin, it's a movement coin, and this is why I believe ultimately it's going to be tens of thousands of times bigger than all of the other meme coins, right? But to somebody kind of either on the margins of the space or outside of full-time crypto or outside of essentially this industry, it's not exactly clear right off the get-go why we are head and shoulder above all of the other quote-unquote meme coins or mimetic assets in this space, right? And I think we need a one-pager that makes it absolutely clear. I think the commandments that we have are amazing, but there's only so much you can say in very short 10 sentences, right? Very brief 10 sentences. And I think having a one-pager, which is, I would say, again, some kind of a combination between a manifesto, a constitution, and a kind of a one-pager thesis, I think that would be a very, very powerful thing. I think this is something that needs to be done with extreme care. I don't think it should be way too schizo, but I also don't think it should be way too normie coded either. I think there is a balance that you can reach between the two. And for that, I think, 6 or 7 of us at least need to come together and write up at least the first draft, present it to the community. And I think after that, as a community all together, we should come to a consensus and we should have that perfected one pager, right? What do you guys think about this?
Can I say something real quick? Hello?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So I like that idea. I would, and maybe this is not relevant. Maybe it is. You were in Bitcoin, let's say 2016.
Yep. Actually, 2013, but
something like that.
more actively. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. If you could teleport yourself back to, let's say 2014, 2015, something like that, and you were doing this exact same thing for Bitcoin, because like now it's consensus, right? But back then it wasn't. What would a one page for Bitcoin look like back then? If that makes sense.
Can you hear me, by the way?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, this is a really good question. Actually, Bitcoin already has something like this. It's the white paper. And I'm not saying we need a 9 or 11 pages or whatever it is. We need a 9-page paper. But I do think that the white paper in BTC is that constitution. It is that manifesto, and it is that thesis, and it's all incorporated there. However, there are some key differences. We are less about software, and we're more about a cultural movement, right? Essentially, because of that, combined with the fact that I would strongly argue that attention spans have strongly collapsed among the youth since 2009, We don't need a 9-pager anymore. And the important point is that the white paper is in itself a meme. Not in the meme in the sense that it's a funny joke, but more in the sense that it's a very strong symbol, and it's a very strong artifact, and it's a very strong document that has become a very critical part of the Bitcoin lore, right? And I still think we're, in the grand scheme of things, early to the idea of SPX and what it's going to achieve, that it makes sense to work on something like this. Hype actually proposed something along these lines a couple of weeks ago, and since then I've been thinking about this as well. And we don't have a Satoshi in our community. Instead of having a Satoshi, I would argue we have more so 500 plus core members that are the equivalent of Satoshi in our community. And I think we need to work together to come up with something like this. I don't want to introduce any kind of bureaucracy or paperwork or rules or processes. We don't want any of that. But I do think it's powerful. What's the point of all this, right? The point is that we would all be on the same page whenever any kind of situations arise in the future. We always have a set of rules or an ideology or a united mission that we can always come back to, that hopefully will be above all of the smaller kind of low frequency things that can potentially arise in the community, right? And by the way, why am I bringing all of these things up today, right? It's because, generally, I believe that the community SPX today, as of late July 2026, is arguably stronger than ever before, right? However, in the future, when there's going to be hundreds of thousands more members, we will not always be able to have, whether it's one-on-one chats, DMs, any kind of discussions. This thing is going to transcend countries. It's going to transcend ethnicities, time zones, and even individual people, right? So I think we need to come up with ways that if any sort of unsavory things or unsavory people or unsavory situations arise in the future, we always have not only the set of rules, but the set of sort of foundational documents and foundational sort of things that we clearly agree upon, that we can always sort of fall back to, right? Because, for example, two small things that people have kind of mentioned to me, whether it was in private or in public. One is the Sharon situation, which we all thought started, on a good note. The person was in trouble. A lot of the Aeons, they think, Aeons, they all helped one another. We're all going to help each other. We're all one family. But as this community grows, something like that is just not going to be scalable, right? And you never know. How do I put it politically correctly, right? Let's just say kindness can be exploited sometimes, right? And we don't all want to be excessively kind either, because at the end of the day, this is not a charity. And of course, we'll always have each other's backs, but at the same time, we need to be robust and anti-fragile to the point which we truly help someone who's truly in need, and we're not going to let any one person sort of sour the mood or sour the vibes, so to speak. Furthermore, there have been situations, for example, again, without naming any names, but so here's the thing, right? Sometimes some of the artists in the community that we have, they are unbelievably talented and unbelievably tasteful, right? But we need to be mentally prepared for a situation where 1 million people are going to join SPX6900, right? In practice, and when I say artists, I mean people making all these amazing videos, all of this, amazing memes, all of the amazing art, posters, pamphlets, etc., right? By definition, the vast majority of the world does not have the talent to do something like this, right? They can nominally create these things, but they're not going to be full of this soul, full of this kind of 2023, early 2024 style, this SPX OG, schizo powerful vibrations, right? Not always at least. And let's assume that only 1% of people on Earth have those kinds of skills. Even if we optimistically assume that out of the next 100,000 or a million people that join SPX, let's say 5% of them, right? We're going to do 5 times better than the Earth average. 5% of them are going to be so talented, right? That still means that 950,000 of them are going to be just normal people, right? They're going to be normal workers, soccer moms, just regular people, right? And I think we need to strike a balance, right? So one end of the extreme is we lash out on newcomers that don't quite produce media, art, tweets, or posts to our liking. And one end of the spectrum is we essentially lash out or isolate them so much that they feel unwelcome, right? That's one extreme. The other extreme is we become so extremely welcoming that it ends up diluting the culture, right? So the point of all of this is we need to find a middle ground where we are generally welcoming to new people, but we also make sure that the vibrations and the culture are preserved very, very well, right? And I know that myself, as the holder of the largest Twitter account, I have a big role to play. And I know that I need to sort of disproportionately retweet and rate and comment and promote people that do things in our sort of desired style, because that aesthetic, it trickles down to the rest of the observers. But my point is, we need to find that golden middle, right, where we're not too gatekeeping, but also not too welcoming. So the reason I'm listing all of these things is because right now we still have the luxury to discuss them, because the community still can largely coordinate, through this group chat, that group chat, the raid groups. Even I know a lot of people are having one-on-one conversations, but eventually, when another 200,000 people join, it will be even harder to organize or to decide on things in such a way, right? And this is why I think coming back to perfecting the commandments, and which we're going to discuss at the 1 hour mark, hopefully, and B, having these documents like the Constitution/Manifesto, I think that's going to be very powerful because we have no leaders. We, at this still relatively early stage of the evolution, we need to come to this consensus about what is truly important. And I think what's truly important is the mission. It's flipping the stock market, right? I think sometimes individual people's egos can get the better of them, and they can kind of get bogged down into the details about like this thing or that thing. But ultimately, what matters is being united and always coming back to the same mission, which is flipping the stock market, right? And I already told, I said to Hype, he said he's going to communicate this to Chang as well. But essentially, in my opinion, the phrase "flip the stock market" is the single most powerful phrase in the SPX6900 movement, right? And I think right now on the website, it's the website, by the way, is a huge improvement over the old one. I absolutely love it. It feels like a proper game. It's amazing. I do think we need to add that phrase, "flip the stock market," prominently to the website. I also think that we should even consider adding that phrase into one of the commandments, but we are going to be discussing it at the 1 hour mark. I know I've talked about, I know I touched on 8 or 9 different topics here, but Hype, Spacey, Cal, what do you guys think about all of this? Feel free to sort of kind of touch on any of the things I discussed and let me know what you think.
I'm personally 100% for doing a manifesto, like you mentioned. And if there's like a group of people who get together to work on that, I would love to be a part of it. I definitely think, like, I might have a document that has the beginnings of this. So I'm happy to collaborate with people on it. Maybe we just have people in the Telegram, if it's something we're going to do, express interest. And I don't know, how do we organize that? Like, I don't know, comment manifesto or something in the Telegram so we could figure out everyone who's interested, or maybe reply to this and say manifesto, like this Twitter space.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I don't think we need to have 300 people work on it.
Exactly.
I think it's totally fine if like 3 or 4 people take a first stab at it, and then community can give feedback until and we're going to be improving it little by little until everybody's happy with it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think that would be very additive. And like, I think to some of the other points Murad was making, like not being too fragile of a community, but also like not overly gatekeeping. I think it's an important point. I think like a lot of us really want to protect this because it means a lot to us. And so that manifests in different ways from different people. So I think at the end of the day, it's always a good practice to be like, why is someone responding this way? Is it just because like out of love of the coin and wanting to protect it? If it is, like, maybe give them just a little bit of grace. But I definitely think delivery matters. And we can, like, I think the important thing to notice is, sorry, if someone seems like they might be a bad actor or they seem like they might be harmful to a project, the question I think to ask yourself is, are they making it about themselves, or are they making it about, as Murad said, the mission, like to flip the stock market? And if the answer is they're making it about themselves, then it's already counterproductive. So I think that's like a good way of gauging things and not giving further play to things that are being made about oneself. So yeah, anyway, I just wanted to add that into the conversation. But yeah.
What if we kind of based our one pager off of this kind of problem that Bitcoin still has, which is like I agree with it in some sense, also disagree in a lot of sense as well. But it's like that Bitcoin's culture has failed or like lacking, and so that's the problem that we're solving through SPX from a cultural standpoint.
I had something I wanted to add to this note. When Murad was talking about like he doesn't necessarily want to use the term like manifesto or whatever the other one was. I grew up like in the Christian religion, and it made me think of the Apostles' Creed. For those of you who don't know, it's just like it was like the 12 apostles decided like, hey, we're just gonna like at the most basic level, in a one pager kind of thing. I mean, it's one sentence, like what we believe at the very basic level. And I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but it's just as simple as like, we believe that, Jesus Christ was born of the Virgin Mary and died for our sins and was the Son of God. It's like very simple like that. And so I guess that's the like, perspective, the way that that's my paradigm for it. So like in my head, I was thinking of like, an Aeon creed.
That's
of like,
so good.
we believe the system is broken and needs and requires like decentralization and participation by the many over the few, like something simple like that you could really, one of the other things about, by the way, just to be totally transparent, I am not Christian. I don't believe in like or practice that faith or whatever. But in terms of like traditions and powerful cultural traditions that have like kept, the Catholic Church, the Christian Church, these very old and powerful imagery is these a lot of these very simple creeds that become prayers, and it's a way that you can almost like recite it to yourself, to like reaffirm to yourself. And I personally, SPX is becoming my religion because I've been trying to commit undies "the system is broken" to memory and like recite that every day to myself. And it's a way of like reaffirming what I do believe about the world and what is important. And it's like a way to keep pointing yourself in the direction of north, right? It's your North Star. And so that's kind of just what came to my mind. It's like, it was along those lines, like a one pager, a short thing that's simple to even tell other people, like, here's what we believe. The world is fucked and like, we have to do something. And that requires decentralized participation. And that
By
kind
the
of
way,
thing.
Slow, if we started with "the system is broken," I think that's a great sentence to start the whole thing from.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, honestly, the system is broken thing is like, that is what I believe. I remember Spacey saying like, this is the most cypherpunk thing, like I've ever read or whatever. And I like totally agree, And to talk about
Absolutely.
it's kind of, it's
Absolutely.
also that like the cultural thing that Bitcoin lost. It's like, that is the thing that we are embodying here. And so I think what you said is important, that we do need to kind of, have like a one pager, a simple thing that everyone fucking understands.
You know, there is a reason why people provide more free cut labor in the SPX community compared to any other meme coin or altcoin. What do you think that is?
I think the why it's altruism, and you know that there's such a high trust in the community that you're kind of like, all right, I'm gonna give this free energy. And some people are like, I expect something in return, and other people are just like, I'm gonna give it because I see it coming back to me in other ways that'll be beneficial to me. We can't
Definitely.
deny that self-interest exists.
Yeah, definitely. So what I really love is if we isolate the self-interest slash greed component, and we isolate even the quality of people component, which are definitely both present here. What I always loved about SPX is the presence of mission, right? Presence of mission, movement, ideological, whatever you want to call it, right? And essentially, we are realizing that a lot of the kind of political and democratic process around the world, they have essentially become absolute theater, complete sham. And essentially what we're doing is, I believe we're in the early stages of something like we're voting with our money, right? We're voting with the money, and essentially attached to this coin is a message. Attached to this coin is a proclamation. Attached to this coin is a set of ideological values. However, and I believe that because of this thing that I'm describing, this intangible thing that we can all feel and that we're all united around, this is one of the 5 or 6 reasons why people provide more free cult labor in this community, right? And why people are so passionate about this community, why we have the highest diamond handed rankings, why we have the highest, I'm not going to list them all, but all of the highest, best metrics, etc., right? It's because of this thing. And this is one of the biggest things that attracted me as well. And what I'm trying to say during the spaces is we need to double down on that, and we need to create more artifacts, traditions, quote unquote memes, and symbols around this very thing, right? Because we call ourselves a movement coin, and I think we need to add a bit more clarity and a bit more direction and a bit more we need to put it in writing, essentially. We need to put it in writing about exactly what this is. Because again, it's too many different things to too many different people, which of course is a positive because we can attract a variety of different demographics. But at the same time, I think it's good that we're finally at this medium level of maturation where it's time for us to come together and to finally create, one or several artifacts that we can always fall back on and that will kind of represent us as symbols. A lot of people, I've had a bunch of these conversations with Aeons over the past several days. I will not be naming names. I don't know if they want to. Essentially, I don't want if these people want me mentioning who these people are. Perhaps they'd like to stay in the shadows. But what I'm trying to do here is to be a little bit of a I don't want to say like voice of the people, but voice of the community. And these are some of these things that I've been talking about over the past 30 minutes. So 3 or 4 ideas that 3 or 4 different people have messaged me about that I personally think are great ideas, that I personally subjectively think that we should execute on them. And I wanted to share it with sort of on the town square, on the spaces today, and to see what you guys think as well.
I have some thoughts, but I know you've had your. If you're waiting to say something, go for it.
Oh, it was on a different thing. I was just remembering to double back to it, but I like all the ideas.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to say briefly that I think, like, however we want to brand it as a manifesto or what have you is an excellent idea, because increasingly, like, the people that are going to be onboarded into SPX are going to have, like, at bare minimum, like a more fragmented social experience, if a social experience at all. And one of the things that drew me to SPX, like, initially, is when I was like really interested in a few coins in 2024, and then part of 2025, like, this was just the easiest one to communicate because it was pretty much instantly like relatable, understandable, interesting. And so being able to summarize that well and have that be like an objective, agreed upon sort of like shared ethos that we all think is like well worded and a good representation of us is excellent, because like, especially as we spin up these chapters, and we have more shows and more books and more like, friends of friends that are told, like, their only experience with this is going to be maybe Googling it or like finding the first thing that they search for. And that's why having stuff like the website and these onboarding cards and maybe something like this is really, really excellent, because we can ensure that it's like, as close to a perfect representation of the North Star that we want it to be. And I think that that will help separate us even more, when you just think about the general landscape of like options out there for people. So I think that's super important. I'm definitely down to work on that in any way that I can be helpful.
Can I also add a bit? I think it's really essential, cool area for sure, and it's important. But so besides one pager, what do you guys think if it's worth transforming this into some kind of art, like gold collection of memes with this like statement, goals, video, or something like this?
I'm sure we
Make it
could.
into a video.
Yeah, I was going to say we've got quite a few video editors that I'm sure would be willing to take a crack at that.
Right. It would be cool to have it come through in all the different sort of styles of videos that we have, like a schizo version of our manifesto, like a more normie, like all of the different sort of perspectives you could look at it through. Would be sick. It's a good idea.
Yeah, like TradFi Nightmare does those like incredible, like, monologue videos that he's just super good at putting those together. And I'm not. I wouldn't be able to. Mine would be really fucking weird. That's all I know. Monj, did you have something to say?
Oh yeah. Hey, can you guys hear me good?
Not really.
Not really. All right,
No.
take off my headset.
We can hear you, but it does sound like you're in a tunnel.
How about now? Better?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I just wanted to touch on one thing real fast. I was on that regional call yesterday, and it's something that I've been thinking about a ton since I went to South Carolina. Those cards are really kind of revolutionary. They're something that SPX has that no one else has in terms of the easiest way to onboard someone. And we're also really lucky. We have the most generous community in all of crypto, I think. And like I've been talking to an Aeon, I'll keep their name out of it, but basically reached out to me and was like, hey, I really like these cards. I have 9,000 SPX I put aside. I want to make 900 cards. I just kind of want to coordinate like how to do this. Where do we put them? And I think that a great way to use those cards would be to send them to these different regional clubs that we have and just like be there to pass them out. I know we don't like the wormhole, but just in my experience, it is the most seamless, non-invasive way to onboard someone. They don't need an ID. They don't need a bank account. Like you bypass all of that, like Coinbase or traditional, like centralized exchange stuff. And it's a 2-minute onboarding process. And I think that's I think those could be used so much more. And especially since we have this generous community that's willing to fund them, I just think that's something that we should really look into. And then my last point is I think these meetups are kind of going to evolve into these like 3 different categories where we have these conferences, right? Like South Carolina, Amsterdam, Miami. And then you have these regional clubs where they're way smaller scale. And then I think the third one is like something that I'm going to plan for Central Park, where it's more a fully outward looking onboard experience where you get a bunch of Aeons in a public place and the cards are sent there, you have posters sent there, and you go and you onboard a bunch of people with these cards. You just talk to people. Just, talk about the stock market, just talk about finding however you deem fit. And I think those are the things, aside from the content, that are really going to show like how we are a completely different community, completely different thing than anything else out there right now.
I really like the cards. It's JVS, right? I'm trying to find them now. I can never find their name.
It's JVS, yeah.
Yeah. He did a really good job on the second iteration. The design was like schmick. Yes.
And it's just like
Yeah.
how seamless it is. You know, like I've onboarded so many people and like it's multiple phone calls, it's Coinbase, it's them being like, they're gonna take my ID, they need my bank account, you know, it's all of those pushbacks. And with this, it's like, hey man, you don't need any of that. You don't need any of that. That's just gonna download this app, you're gonna scan this QR code, I could do it with you right here. It takes 2 minutes. You know, it's so seamless and non-invasive. You know, there is still this big however you want to call it, like stigma on crypto where it's like, it's a scam. Like it's a scam, the whole thing's a scam, the wallet's a scam. So like just to be able to like, here, look, dude, that's all you gotta do. And I just found them to be like revolutionary.
What do you think about if we had a limited amount of those cards?
Yeah, like collectible versions would be so good.
Yeah,
'Cause
it's
if we
already
did that heaps instead of trading card, like instead of a trading card game style thing, we make the onboarding cards different collectible designs with like different rarities and shit. So you actually wanna like
How about
Once-
just Project Aeon cards?
no, you gotta make them cool. You can't just slap an
Once-
NFT on
once
them.
you-
Like, they all need
yeah,
different
once-
designs
okay.
and shit. Yeah.
once you've redeemed
You're
the
right.
SPX that's in the card, you still have like a collectible whatever.
And what if the SPX stays in the collectible card? Then it's even better.
How does it stay in there?
If you don't redeem it, then it stays.
Oh, right. Okay.
Right, and then you can like in 10 years you still have this like cool collectible thing that was
Also,
made
it's
in,
like a Cassius
2027.
coin, but it's like a Cassius coin, but a card.
Yeah, and then you like
Cassius card.
PSA slab. I did want to double back onto the gatekeep thing with the artists in like keeping the imagery good, because the like correct imagery is like so powerful. Like with the onboarding cards you really see it, because like a lot of people use their right brain to understand things instead of just their left brains. Like some people you just need to talk to them and then they'll understand. Some people you need to like show them with like imagery, the cypherpunk stuff, and then they'll like get it, and then they'll get inspired and motivated. So it's really important to like retain that and not get it overloaded with like slop essentially. Cause yeah, one thing that we have, because like the explosion of AI has been amazing, but it also means that like everyone can just type into Grok and like make something, and it's a lot easier to make something that's shit and anyone can do that. It's a lot harder and more time consuming and takes like skills and like passion to make something that's really good. So you can get like 100 things which aren't that good, which are like a 2 or 3 out of 10, and then you can get one thing that's like an 8 out of 10. And then if the thing that's an 8 out of 10 is like seen as the same level as a 2 out of 10, it just everything gets skewed and messed up. And with SPX, it's sort of like for every 300 or maybe even 500 normal people that we get, we pick up one good artist, and then we have to retain them. And that's almost the hardest part, because we're asking people to do free labor with softwares which are expensive. Keep upgrading and getting better at your skills, spend a bunch of money on AI credits. Essentially a bunch of money which they could spend buying SPX or Aeons. They instead have to give it to like CapCut or Adobe or ChatGPT. So, and it is going to get worse as we scale and get like way bigger, because we'll continue to pick up one good artist for every like 300 or so like other people. So platforming the good creations is kind of paramount to success. Otherwise, we do see a lot of like churn in the back end, because at the moment we have probably like 2 handfuls, maybe 3 of like actual impactful good creators in SPX. And creators are very fickle people and they want their stuff to be seen, and they get really sad if it isn't, and then they want to like drop off. Like the amount of DMs that I've like read and conversations that I've had where people want to leave. They're like, I'm done. What's the point of me doing all of this? What's the point of me being here? Because like their stuff will get the same amount and usually like less reach than someone just making like a really shitty version of a coin and like slapping it on a jet or something. It was a lot worse like 6 months, a year ago. It's the best it's been in like quite some time, but we don't want that to like happen again in another year and a half when we're like 5 times bigger than we are now. So it's
What do you think about so like for a new artist, right? They're either basically deciding like I can make art for SPX and not have any money, or I can do this other thing. What if we had like a grant situation where we would say SPX is an artist community. We want grants so we can pay our artists.
him. I swear to God, if you want to shill fucking your platform,
You know I'm not
I'm gonna deal you.
I'm gonna say
deal
hi.
you.
What are you talking about? I'm not that shameless. I'm shameless, but that's just ridiculous. No, no. I came here first off to say hi, and I found what you guys were talking about interesting. The whole look, it is kind of a problem that the access to AI has gotten to such a degree where you get equally really cool videos, but at the same time, anyone with 2 seconds can produce something, and they're gonna just bust it out, and that does hurt the image of a product if the thought given to that was like 0.2 seconds, which is usually, I mean, well, in this space, quite common, unfortunately. So I would say it's a rock and a hard place issue because obviously you don't want to have the motivation for people creating content for SPX to be, oh, give me money, because then that's just unsustainable. But then at the same time, it's like you're going to get this mixture of people just producing slop, slop, slop because it's just easy, it's free. There's no need to actually think behind it. And other people who will dedicate genuine time and commitment because they have such a belief in what SPX is, what it should be, how it should be represented, that they're going to like look leaps and bounds better. So I'd say the best part to go about that, or the best way to just sidestep that, is if there's a general consensus for what the art should look like, I think it at least helps people sniff out what they should promote and what they shouldn't promote. Because people are always going to make slop. That's hard to stop. You can't really control that. But if you have sort of, I'm not sure where you could post it, I'm not sure how you could highlight it, but if you had some sort of, like the Aeons, when you buy them, the actual NFT, they have a look to them. Does the art have to follow that look, or can it also follow a cyberpunky style, more anime? I think once you guys figure out more like the guidelines between that, it helps a lot more to establish who we should promote, who we should say, okay, let's back this guy's post, let's retweet favorite, as opposed to just letting the slot kind of die out in engagement hell where no one can see it.
When in doubt, just throw words on top of your Aeon. That's like, if you want to make stuff and you have no idea how to make stuff, come up with something that's cypherpunk kind of vibed, coded, I guess, and just write it on top of your Aeon. And if you need help doing that, just ask us. But I wanted to ask a question to people. And this is probably more a question for the artists. I was thinking about like the brand sort of like recognizability, I don't know what the right word is, of Supreme. And Supreme always uses the same stupid basic font in white with like the red around it. I just wanted to say that we have so many good designs, but when we're tagging up cities, this was like kind of something that came to my own awareness when I was writing. I was responding to a message from Nika, and everyone knows Nika has been like spamming cities with insane stickers. The artwork on the stickers is incredible. But Nika was like, what are some of your thoughts on like what could be done differently? And in thinking about it, like you almost want to establish some degree of like brand recognition. So I'm wondering if when we're tagging up cities, we should actually really concentrate on like a very limited number of designs that we use. I don't know. I wanted to hear people's thoughts about this because I'm kind of torn. We have so
Someone
much.
has already started that job.
You're talking about the wheat
Does anyone
paste.
know
You're talking
if
about the wheat
anyone's-
paste.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, so right. So to that point, hype is the intention for the wheat paste poster campaign to keep it to a limited number of visuals so that there's like this recognition when you see it again and again and again, like
Yeah.
like being re-exposed to the same visual.
Yeah. And I made a few more brochures and stuff. Wanted a
Yeah.
couple stickers.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's all in enough of a theme.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like spread across a few of the different artists. So like there is different style it's not just like one exact SPX
Right.
that everything follows.
Right. I guess if like they are stylistically similar, like the brain does a pretty good job of like grouping things into categories, so it'll probably recognize like, oh, this must be SPX propaganda. But yeah, I don't know. It occurred to me that everyone knows Supreme, and when you think Supreme, you visualize that stupid logo that everyone sees everywhere. So, I mean, obviously, SPX has the S&P 6900 logo, which is the coin, or the logo separate from the coin. But I don't know. I was just thinking, like, in terms of re-exposing people to the same visual, people shouldn't be afraid to reuse the very best assets that we have that have been used frequently, because there is value to repeated exposure to the same thing. So anyway, that's kind of like the thought that's been sort of brewing in my mind. And I don't know, I think Hype is right that if like they're of a similar style, it's okay to have some variation, but I think we do need to maybe streamline some of the visuals that we use for like the IRL shilling.
Yeah, we can redo the brand kit because I'm not like happy with my branding guide that I made however many months ago. So we can redo that and then get that up on the website or up in like the free downloads of industries and stuff like that. Because that would be the biggest help with like breakdowns of the exact different styles that we use and then how they can like combine, because we have about like 3 to 6 and like a couple of them are just plain better. And that's one of the difficult things sometimes I think we have in SPX. People have their own style that they like and then they bring that to the table, and then it's like kind of far off from what we're actually looking for. And we already have so much to work with. Like we have an insane amount of freedom in SPX design, which is almost overwhelming at a point. So what, redo the brand kit, get more free downloadable brochures and stickers up. What else do you think? I'm working on the logos.
What if we agreed on a font for those stickers?
That'll be all right, but everyone doesn't agree.
Can I
That's
say
the
something?
thing. Yeah.
Sure. I mean, we could vote though. Like, this is the most popular one, or this is kind of a few of them that are top
Yeah, that's
choices.
what the brand kit is for. But you end up having like 6 different.
I wanted to add, to touch on what Murad said about like the individual chapters that are going to start to happen throughout like different places. And I think what I wanted to like add is, I think it's also a good thing that we advise those chapters to start getting like, I don't want to say the word serious, because that kind of kills the vibe. But I think there needs to be a certain like level of commitment, especially I guess out of those like top 500, SPX individuals, to start organizing like these individual like factions that SPX is going to eventually need. So there's going to be a need for a art, collective that takes care of like the general art style of SPX, and then there's going to be like this marketing collective, and then there's going to be this like IRL shilling collective, and I think those can start to mesh very well together with like the IRL chapters, because ultimately, like, to really flip the stock market, we're going to have to organize a lot of things. And even though SPX is an open community that we can all talk to each other at this point, I totally agree with Murad when he says that at some point, there's going to be like 2 million people that come in like a week or so, and we're not going to be able to talk to them at all. So I think there needs to be these collectives that are already like pre-established and have motion by themselves. They can guide the different the different sections of SPX without having to look at like particular central figures for answers or validation, and more so still like collectives that already have some level of organization within them. They can pump whatever decisions or content or organization like for the public that needs to be planned. So yeah, that's kind of like what I wanted to add to that. So yeah.
I'll add something that I forgot to say earlier. We could have if we're doing the spaces regularly now, like the volleyball practice every week, we can do an artist spotlight or even have like 10 minutes where we just go through the best art of the week or the best art of the month. That way it gives a lot of the artists who maybe they don't want to speak, but they get that recognition where there's several hundred people that are in here right now. They get to see that. We could also be like, hey, retweet this. And then it's just going to be seen later on. When these spaces are rewatched and things like that.
I think we're in a good range now because a lot of the issues came from losing the main account, and like the Aeon account going down, not going down, but you know what I mean, going AWOL, and we have both of those back now in good hands. So it should solve the issue of everyone sort of essentially relying on Murad's page as like the main channel of what should be distributed in the scene across all of SPX. So I think in 3 to 6 months, the problem will.
Well, my theory, my reasoning for that is we can also like say what we like about that specific art. We can be like, oh, we really like this, or like, oh, this is really cool. Here's what we didn't like, or.
Tom Bow got his PP slapped.
I am so sorry. I missed
It
with
was
my cat.
you.
I am so sorry. So sorry.
Tom out.
Worst co-host ever.
I legit don't know why I got the co-host. Thank you, Murad. But yeah.
Because it wouldn't let me accept you as normal speaker. I tried like 11 times, and so I just did a co-host instead.
Jezel, take over. This is your chance. Just like kick Murad off, mute him constantly, run the space.
No, I won't. But Tom about said about the artist showcase, it's great. It's like awesome. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. Did I get cut off at some point? I don't know what happened.
You did get cut off. Yeah.
Okay, I'll just say it again. So our main account is great that we have and we can showcase art, but if we have that kind of 10 minutes or 5 minutes or whatever of being like, oh, that was really cool, like here's why. That way it spotlights and we can further drive more of what we want to see, like a feedback loop.
Yeah. I think that actually is really important because for people who aren't like particularly artistic, they can maybe, they might be able to appreciate something good, but they don't know how to recreate it. So it might be like a good opportunity too for the artists to be able to like spend a couple minutes like walking everyone through their process of how to create a meme or whatever,
If only there was like a live stream that sort of focused on that sort of stuff. That would be crazy good.
Shut up, hype. Stop shilling yourself. Just kidding, shill yourself.
Well, every Saturday. No. You wanna ramble, Murad?
I just wanted to say that been getting some DMs during the spaces from some Aeons as well. Several of them are pointing out that Reddit is like super important because again, like we've already mentioned several times, we're already somewhat well established on Twitter, but actually the kind of holders that you would get outside of Twitter will end up being much more long-term and patient holders. We think that Reddit is very important. And one of the goals that I wanted us to have, we currently have, I think, 1,200 or 1,300 on our Reddit. I think it's good if we gradually get it to... Oh, no, sorry, I was wrong. We have 8,000 members. We have 8,000 members on our Reddit. It's good for us to aim to get it above 10,000. What I wanted to say is that it's very important that we post on Reddit just as much as we post on the other subreddits. I'm talking about the SPX6900 subreddit as a whole. You can theoretically onboard 100 new people there with one post. You just have to be very smart. What Maddox has done last week was a great example. He posted a video of Tenzin talking about some of the problems that the youths are kind of facing right now. And he wasn't shilling SPX very hard at all, but there was SPX6900 logo on Tenzin's chest on his t-shirt. And I think that kind of like slight shill or that kind of elegant shilling is very powerful because that way it can start spreading on other subreddits. You can start posting in other communities, but it will take a lot of practice to figure out how to do it in a way that won't get you banned. Again, it's more of an art than a science, but something that you have to learn how to do properly. Slow. You have been someone who has done it very well. If you want to give a couple of sentences about this.
Oh shit. Unprepared. Yeah. No, exactly what you said was really good. I also just took a massive bite of a bagel. But I know, shit. That's karma. Yeah, I agree with what you said. Do it subtly. Honestly, I'm not gonna say avoid crypto subs, but like crypto subreddits are kind of similar to X. It's like basically just a bunch of bots or degenerate gamblers, or people who are like just wanting to trade, and half of them like already know about SPX or that's a battleground. Honestly, just like the thing that's worked well for most people is like find the things that you are good or passionate about or good at talking about, knowledgeable about. Go into those subreddits and find a subtle way to shill SPX. That is pretty much it without like overtly shilling SPX. By the way, I have been banned from like a ton of subreddits at this point. So that there is a risk when you're doing that. So like really just be subtle. If you're providing value to people, they're more likely to like go look at your history, comments, or your posts. They'll see that you're in this SPX subreddit and active in it. Like, yeah, be subtle. I spend a lot of time in the Gen Z subreddit because they are constantly making posts about how much their life sucks. And it's like, yeah, agreed. Like, we're all there. And then I'll share a meme that's like, you know, relevant. And I've had people respond really positively or just be like, yo, that's sick art. Like, where's that from? So, yeah.
Sorry, just what you said was so prophetic slow. I think we're all marinating in it.
I know. You're all in awe. I get it. 1%.
When did slow stop being slow?
Yo, what's up, Aeons? How y'all doing? What's up? Woo! Hey, since there's so much talk about the artists in the community, I really just wanted to hop on here to recommend this book that has helped me a lot with my artist journey. It's called The Creative Act by Rick Rubin. And it starts off with this quote. It says, "The object isn't to make art. It's to be in that wonderful state which makes art inevitable." So this has really helped me out with my musical journey as an artist. And I just wanted to recommend it to all the artists in the community. So it's a great book. That's it. Love you guys. Peace.
Yeah, I'll add a little piece to that. I think that's such an important part. And if you make art, it's just a play. Like, don't try and make anything. If you feel stuck, like obviously if you have a goal in mind of what you want to make, that's great. But like, just take a notepad or whatever app you have and start messing around with it. And don't think of like, oh, I have to make it like this or make it like that. You're just like screwing around on the internet. And that's where some of the best art comes from.
Yeah, this book has a lot of recommendations for when you get stuck with things. Different things that Rick Rubin has tried with his artists to, get them out of that space where they feel stuck. Another thing too is like as artists, where sometimes we get into the bad habit of wanting to please the audience, right? Wanting to please who's going to see this art, who's going to listen to this art. So he's got a lot of great insights about that, why that's not really our job, you know. So it's really
Yeah,
helpful book.
make things that you like and make things that for your friends like, and those are some of the best pieces of music, art, etc.
Yeah. Basically, our job is to take this, this inspiration, be it from God or from the universe or from wherever it comes from the ether, and bring it into the physical realm, right? So, and that's kind of our job, right? It's we're like the vessels for these things, and our job is to create this art and put it out to the world. Now, whatever happens after that is out of our control, you know. So as artists, kind of we get stuck like, oh man, what if nobody listens to my song, or what if nobody likes my art? It's that's out of our control. We just gotta do the best we can to basically transmute this energy that's coming from God or from the universe into the physical form and let you guys just see it, you know. And it's some people are gonna like it, some people are not, but it's not really our job to, that second part of it. So it's just a great book to help you get around those things.
I always get saved by Suno. It's so stupid. Whenever I'm like rock bottom, I find I like end up like going to Suno and making some like dumb retarded song, and it like picks me back up again. Like you have to like make a little bit of like slop sometimes with like no brain cells.
Wow, that's like a heretical coming from hype.
You gotta make good slop, but it's gotta be like entertaining slop.
Good slop, yeah. That's a good what is it? Oxymoron. Good slop.
Yeah. Well, there's like layers to slop. There's stuff that's just plain bad, and then there's like slopcore. Like SPX Man is slopcore, where you see him like on a surfboard in Hawaii,
like
and there's
tongue in cheek,
and you're like, yeah.
Yeah, and that's also it's
just want to not think when
it's the creator. If you're creative enough, you could make amazing slop because it's not the picture itself; it's what the message that's being conveyed.
Yeah, skill expression. How good can you make something bad?
Yeah, exactly.
That's a really funny way of looking at it.
What else is there to yap about? I don't know if there's much else to yap about.
Bronze Army documentary, August 1st, and Jinping Labs, August 1st.
You guys shoehorning Bronze Army into everything SPX again.
What are you talking about?
What are you talking about?
What are you talking about?
I don't know what you're talking about.
What are you talking about?
Talking about.
Talking about.
Hype, do you want to say a few words about our discussion regarding commandments? Baprol may or may not be joining in the next couple of minutes as well.
Oh, he's taking a pee right now. He's giving us like minute by minute where he is. It shouldn't be long. Yeah, commandments. But yeah, because I updated them a few months ago. Took out you're a bot and that's okay.
Can you post the updated one on the Jumbotron, please?
Oh yeah, I'll have to post it. Give me a second.
Essentially, guys, other than the manifesto / constitution / one-pager discussion that we have had, we believe that there is a way to improve commandments even more. For example, on the Jumbotron, I've pinned the old ones, and that was kind of like a V1 or V2 of them, right? Hype is going to attach the new version that was updated. Essentially, what he has done is he took away "you're a bot and that's okay," and he replaced it with "make it memorable," right? And essentially, certain situations happen in the SPX community. Yeah, so on the Jumbotron, you can see the old on the third picture on the Jumbotron, you can see the old commandments, and in right now, Hype has pinned the latest one. So we are wondering if there is a way. First of all, we need to make the commandments a bigger deal. That's first things first. Why? Because ideally, they will incorporate. They will essentially be a solution to 99% of the situations, right? By the way, something that I wanted to mention is occasionally we have people in the SPX6900 community that misbehave, right? They either misbehave or they promote another coin, or they do something that's lewd, or they do something that's a charge or with a trade or something, right? And ideally, the commandments, potentially together with the future manifesto, these serve as a solution, right? They serve as a solution to any of these kinds of situations. One thing I've been pointing out to people is sometimes we have one person that is kind of going against the grain, or is not being sort of collaborative, or is just acting weird or whatever, right? And I've noticed that community gets flustered quite a bit when even just one person misbehaves. And it's always quite weird to me because we should be much more anti-fragile, right? The behavior of any one person should not affect our spirits, our morale, our situation, right? Because imagine, right? If we have 3 people misbehaving today, for example, in the future, when 100,000 people join, when 1 million people join, there's going to be 30, 300 people, even 3,000 people misbehaving, right? And as long as the core mission is intact, as long as the core sort of memes and artifacts and commandments are in place, this isn't something that we should be affected by, right? And also understand this, right? A year, 2 years from now, when this is much bigger, there's going to be people that are going to be pretending to be Aeons, and they're going to be infiltrating the community or whatever, just to, you know, kind of they're going to be deliberately entering the community, pretending to be an Aeon for 2 or 3 months, and then they're going to be deliberately doing something crazy in order to make all Aeons look bad, right? So ultimately, it should not ever be about any one person, but rather it should be about the movement as a whole, the mission as a whole. And that's why the memes, the videos, the artwork, the commandments that we improve further and agree upon, they should be doing all the talking rather than any one person, right? I see Baprol in the audience. Let me invite him. Okay, Baprol has been invited.
His mic settings, I think, are all fucked up with the voice modulator. Yeah, the commandments are really strong. I sort of underestimated how impactful that they would be when I would post something on Reddit and then start getting drilled by random people over the commandments. Like, do you know the commandments? And it's like, I was there when they were written in the stone. But they're really good. I think sometimes they can be taken too heavy-handed or like out of context, because I definitely think did you say this before, Murad, about like meaning stuff in reaction to like when someone breaks those like the commandments, instead of just jumping on their ass and bullying them, you sort of like when someone posts a chart, it's better to rock up with like memes and like entertainment to like teach them and
Yeah.
to like chastise them instead of yeah.
Yeah, 100%. We were discussing this before the spaces. I said, essentially, what I really like a really great example is how we collectively behave when somebody posts a chart. Essentially, the community acts as like an army of white blood cells, and through playful, memeable collective action, we essentially, instead of telling them, "Oh, fuck you, you're trash," we teach them through the art of meaning and through the art of showing up that this is not the way to go. You know what I mean? And they will gradually sort of, if they're smart, they will gradually kind of get the message that way, right? And we do this for when somebody posts a chart. We do this when somebody's like alluding to trading. We do this when people post something lewd. And generally, it's a good reaction, right? It's a much healthier, much funner reaction. And you also turn it into this like kind of a performance, like a performance art slash like group activity. And it's really fun to gradually kind of convert people that way.
Yeah, it is the internet as well. It's meant to be fun and a little bit silly. I think the website is good because all the commandments are on there as well with some larger explanations about them, about like each one. Because sometimes people can like extrapolate outwards what they think it means, and then that continues for like a year and a half, and then they're like concrete in their beliefs about like what like no PvP means.
So one question I had is, should flip the stock market be a commandment, or is it not a commandment? Is it just like the goal? Is it the mission? Is it a tagline? You know what it is? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's more of like the goal, the mission, the tagline, because each of the commandments are like a behavior to follow, like what to do, what not to do, sort of thing. Whereas flip the stock markets, like yeah, it is the mission. Like I could put it onto the commandments, but we can't add another one. We can't make it like 11 commandments and then 12 commandments and then 13 commandments. I think it needs to stick to like 10. And the two that I cut the other week were pretty much the only two which were able to be cut. Because everything else is like, it's worked. It's worked really well. Like maybe 6,900 is a bigger number than 500. But that's kind of like a belief.
The girl is cute is way too historically important, right?
Yeah, yeah. Girl's cute, no lewd, there is no chart, stop trading and believe in something. Only enemy is Tradfire, kill them with love. They're all good, peaceful life over greed. Because it's very much like each one is a different like action, behavior, something to like follow. Like it's a commandment. So we'll have to use flip the stock market more in other places.
Yeah, that's fair. Essentially, my main concern was, out of all of the taglines and mottos and lines in the SPX6900 movement, I think flip the stock market is by far like the most powerful one. So I just personally want to see it like more prominently visible everywhere, right? Like in the media, etc. But if we can make it more prominently visible on the website, I think that would be good. That would be a step in the right direction, I think.
Yeah, so it needs to be front and center on the main page. You're right about that. I think it's there. I think it's just small. Would you look at that? It's not there.
Is that gonna join or?
Maybe not.
Okay.
The app is not working, like the voice mod app.
Gigi, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, what's up, guys? I took a little recess, so I'm not sure if this is exactly the topic, but I'm just looking at the top and I see the 10 commandments. And my question was, does it have to be 10? And I asked that because, like, I have a normie friend right now who just came into wealth, inherited. And today I ran into the issue of, like, how do I present, SPX to him in a way that's really easily digestible if he's not into the cypherpunk or he's not into, like, the extreme side of things. And if I was to pass on the 10 commandments as they are right now, I feel like half of that would be so confusing to him because some of it is like lore. So my question is, to what you said earlier is like the attention span has declined dramatically. Like, not to make it biblical, but when the Bible was written, 10 was good. Can we get off with 5 or just a few less? That just
No way.
No.
They're all like way too important because the 10 commandments aren't for people outside of SPX. They're for like people inside of SPX to follow. So
That's where
SPX stays on
I think
course.
that's where the one pager, manifesto that we want to write would come in perfectly. You could give it to your wealthy friend and they could read it, and that one pager would be a much better explainer. But I think commandments are just such an important part of the community that at this point, if anything, we can add one, but I don't think reducing any is viable at this point.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I think maybe I was just imagining sending the commandments in unison with the one pager, but if it's kind of like two separate things, that makes a lot of sense.
I think the commandments play a much more like cultural role within the community. It's not like someone who's trying to like share Christianity isn't going to start talking about the 10 commandments. You know what I'm saying? Like that's a different, like, it's for a different reason. No one's getting onboarded because, they read the girl is cute and they're like, oh yeah, yeah. I mean, they might be confused and then look into SPX, but
yeah, it's kind of like the foundational tenets, like the cornerstones, if you will, of the temple that we're actively building. Whereas, flipping the stock market is the goal orientation. It's what we're building this temple to encompass. So it's like for the people looking up, which is good for normies, right? It's like aligning them with the goal, and then they get aligned with, I see this movement growing in that direction. And then when they become an Aeon, they look down and see, what am I standing on? Like, what are these foundational tenets that have created the space, created the temple with which we're building?
Heat. Thanks for coming up, Bill.
Did we get Dill instead of Papo?
Yeah, we got a derivative. We got backup.
I will say, though, that, with articulating a manifesto, even at a page, there's, it's so difficult to articulate all that encompasses SPX, right? And so even if you're saying things bluntly, there's still going to be room to interpret and deeper meaning. And I think it really, really relies on like the Aeon historian, if you will, to be able to decipher said codex. Like with Bitcoin way back when, people were really focused on creating sigils, like artistic sigils that, went a little bit too Lulu, but, to where a person could look at it and see all the inner dynamics of what BTC was and what it was going to grow to be and blah, blah, blah. But I think one of the biggest mistakes that they made is that, the archetypal historian, the person who was a part of building said sigils and taking snapshots of like /G and Bitcoin talk, those historians kind of dipped on out. And so even though like the artifacts of BTC are still there, the interpreters are not. And I think it's extremely important. I love this idea of the manifesto because it's like an agreed upon vibration at our core, and that the target audience might not even be new people per se, but it's us in the future to look back to and say, does this align where this came from? And I think those snapshots are super fucking important, because even us years from now, with the growth that's going to be happening and the different conversations that's going to be had, we'll be living so in the present that it's so difficult to align oneself with the tenets of the past if these snapshots aren't made. And so, it's a beautiful thing, like where we do these collages of like people's PFPs. You look at the collage and it tells a story. It's like, oh, I remember that person. I remember the conversations that I had. I remember discussing X, Y, and Z. But even more so, like these collages of memetics or collages of discussions that happen on, on Reddit or on Telly. Those are like tethering agents that bring you back for you to get like re-encapsulated with the energy and the meaning with which all this is growing from. And these snapshots, I think, are extremely important, not just for future Aeons, but for the current Aeon that needs to have that foundational tethering.
Round of applause, guys.
Yeah, that was well said, Bill.
Okay, guys. Very productive space. A lot of great ideas here. I'm looking forward to joining up with 5, 6, 7 of you potentially to get the first crack at this manifesto. I'm sure many of you are even more talented than I am in writing these kind of pieces. It's going to be essentially our version of a sacred document. And I'm very excited for us as a community together to produce something like this. And let's definitely make progress on this over the coming week and 2 weeks. Thank you, everybody who has attended today's spaces. I'm very happy. The peak viewership today was the highest, I think. We went up to 265 people at the same time. So this tradition is definitely growing, even though it's midsummer. I think it's going to be even bigger come September, October. Once again, thank you for everybody for joining. This was SPX6900 Sunday Spaces Volleyball Practice Volume 7. And looking forward to talking to you guys on Volume 8 in 1 week. Thank you, guys. Stop trading and believe in something and flip the stock market.
Thanks, Murad. And ping pong.